Hey guys, I'm Tweomaz, and today I'm going to go over a little bit of my process, how I made Waluigi Pinball and Garry's mod using the Hammer editor. And I used Hammer++. I'm not going to get into how to install that, but Hammer++ is a must-get for anybody looking to make source maps. Really great tool. Brilliant people who made it. We're going to dive straight in. So the first thing that people might be wondering, why would I do something like this? I am very passionate about video games. I love them a lot. I love the history behind them, and I love playing video games. And I grew up on Mario Kart as many children did. Mario Kart DS was the one I grew up with, and so I've got a sentimental attachment to a lot of the courses. But I also just think it's really novel and interesting to have levels from other games in Garry's mod, because Garry's mod is basically the game where you can do whatever you want. Like, in Mario Kart, you can race. In Garry's mod, you can spawn a T-Rex and set off a tactical nuke and have a have a spider fight with your friends if you want. So that's basically my motivation for doing this. It's just because it's really great. Um, and and the other thing is, it's just really fun and satisfying to see a build of yours take place and to solve technical problems associated with making a map. And to just do all the little chores, like finding all the textures and building all the geometry. It's just really fun. I find it very fun. So we're going to start here, and we're going to go over the first thing that I like to do when I make a Mario Kart DS map, because I made a couple at this point. I just released TikTok Clock on the Steam Workshop. The first thing, and the most important that I think to do first, is to just get all of the textures. Um, Now, a lot of experienced mappers will probably tell you to build the geometry first, but there's just something in me that doesn't like to start without having all the tools in my toolbox. So you can type in Google Mario Kart DS texture dump, and all of the textures will just pop right up. You download all of those, turn them into .vmf files, and then create VMTs to go with them, and import all of them into the game like that. And once you've done that, you can basically start building the level. And as you build the level, you'll start to see where there might be some shortcomings. For instance, around these bends here, how the game makes tracks, essentially, how the game makes roads, essentially, is it takes a one-dimensional image and it repeats it a bunch of times throughout a flat road, a vector, I guess. Um, but for curves, that just doesn't work so well. So what I ended up doing was I opened up GIMP, which is like free Photoshop, and I imported this one-dimensional image. So it's basically like a flat line, and I did a filter called polar coordinates, and that made it into a circle that I could use like this. Um, so yeah, that's basically just an example of some modifications that you might have to do after the map is made. And so it helps to just kind of have the textures all there for you to modify. And of course there's the scrolling textures. Those were very easy to implement, I thought. You just have to get a VMT that says it scrolls. And with that out of the way, that's basically the long and short of how textures work in this. I'm going to go over the functionalities of the map now. So, first of all, the player. This is where the player starts. That's what this little green guy is. He's a player start, and you begin by driving through this tunnel. And there are basically just all of these boxes. Each one of these is a trigger catapult set to launch players at 10,000 and physics objects, which would be vehicles, at 50,000. Because, cars are heavier than people. Big surprise, right? Um, and the player gets launched through this tunnel, and this is a trigger catapult that actually sort of slam dunks them into the ground a little bit. And if this wasn't here, the player would just keep going and going, because they would just go flying out, because there'd be nothing to stop them from that huge velocity they got. So then these are trigger pushes. These are basically dash panels. They give you a boost to super speed. And I just have them set to push the player really fast in the proper direction. Down here, this track section was very difficult to make. Just the geometry. Really tough stuff to do, I thought. Because like the more complicated shape, the less the engine likes it. So circles like this, especially this corner piece here, it wanted to make this like an invalid solid, so you have to do all these little tricks. Like here, if I just show you what kind of shape this is, it's rotated and it's cut very thin. And that's kind of a recipe for disaster when it comes to making stuff in this. Then over here, we've got these two speakers, and these are basically just funk breakables. Funk means function in this, in case you didn't know. And basically, when the player shoots them both, there's this little math counter here. And and the max is set to 2, and so that's because there's 2 speakers, right? So if the player actually shoots and breaks both speakers, it stops the music. So in the game, you can actually blow up the speakers if you don't like the music, which, I mean, I personally love the music for this level. I think it's a real bop, as the kids like to say. And here's this, this is another trigger catapult. It's the same as the launchers, but just less intense. And it's pointed at this little guy here. This part wasn't too bad to create. I just got a cylinder and a smaller cylinder and carved it. I know I'm not supposed to use the carve tool, but I deemed it appropriate in this situation. But in general, using the carve tool is a very bad idea. It causes corruption very easily. And then this ramp was sort of hard to do. I got a circle and I hollowed it out, or I got the same circle and I basically just carved it again, which, again, it's risky, but it worked. And I had to do some modifications to the right side of this, because the player couldn't like climb their car up properly. So around here, and we're sort of nearing the end at this point. We've got these triggers here, and these are just here for cinematic effect. The player runs through them, and they activate these pinball flippers in advance. So while you're driving down, you sort of get a preview that these things are dangerous, and they're going to flip you. And they flip hard, too. You go flying if you get smacked by these. These guys were sort of tough to make because they're funk doors. And that basically these kinds of doors, they like to open on just a flat surface, which means that because this floor is on an incline, they'll clip into the road, which is really bad. So what I did was I parented them to a different door that tilts up, and basically when you parent something to something else, it just means that when this yellow box moves, this flipper moves with it. So this guy tilts back a little bit, and that sort of helps the flipper accommodate for the road's tilt. And it's the same on both sides. It's symmetrical. And then these bumpers here are all just funk track trains that follow this little ring. Yeah, that was pretty... At first I had these guys as a funk rotating, but that didn't work out at all because for the same reason as these flippers, it just wanted to clip into the ground, and I couldn't get it to work properly. So instead, we've got these track trains, and I think they work really nicely. They look great in game. Very happy with those. We'll get into the pinball functionality in the second half of this video. because the pinballs are so complicated, they warrant their own video easily. So that being said, I'm going to end it here. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you guys have any other questions about miscellaneous things, just let me know. I could talk about my glorious Waluigi statue. Really proud of this guy, but that's basically the technical parts of this map done. You know, just some. I mean, these are funk rotatings. I didn't mention that, but you don't need to have a lot of experience to do that kind of stuff. So, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next part of this.